Welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Polzin with 9 to 5 Sports. Going to be getting into this 3-game Thanksgiving slate. It's going to be a pretty fun one. There are a lot of great receiver plays, and that's going to be the tough part about this slate. But we have some pretty obvious, I think, running back plays, which will make the slate a little bit easier. And that's just trying to figure out which tight end play to play on this slate. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this coverage. If you do, make sure to give a like and subscribe. That helps me be able to put up more content for you guys. A lot of you guys know this, but my goal is to reach 5,000 subscribers before the new year. We're kind of on pace for that. Need to pick it up a little bit, so can get there with your help. All right, appreciate it, guys. Let's get into the picks for today. All right, so starting off with the quarterbacks here, I think the quarterback position is going to be the easiest of the positions to predict. Looking at it, the biggest question is Josh Allen going to bounce back? Okay, it's been a few games in which he has kind of struggled. Not really DFS-wise, but watching the games, he's made some weird mistakes, and it goes back to like that second half with the Green Bay Packers where he threw those strange INTs in the second half, okay? And then against the Jets, kind of struggled as well. Was still able to score 26 DK points. And then, kind of not surprisingly, we saw the rushing touchdowns go away in favor of Devin Singletary with that injury that he sustained, and he was still able to score 25 DK points. And then last week happened against the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns played a great game, but we saw Josh Allen struggle-ish, okay, especially DFS-wise. So the question is he going to bounce back? And I would say yes. Against Detroit, that's a matchup in which you would expect him to bounce back. The weakness with the Cleveland defense is not really in the secondary. You try to run the ball against the Cleveland Browns, and that's why Devin Singletary was able to have a good game last week. So yes, I do think we can go back to the well with Josh Allen. But the question is, do we have to? I really like Dak Prescott once again this week. The core play from last week and the cover boy from last week, I think we can easily go at him, roster him once again this week. 6.2 is going to be a cheap price point for him. The problem with Dak Prescott last week is that the game was a blowout. The game was a blowout so fast. So like Dak Prescott didn't really need to do much. He was highly efficient. A lot of people are like so excited for what Tony Pollard did in that game. A lot of that was just due to how great Dak Prescott played. 2 touchdowns, ran the ball a little bit as well. This game with the Giants, yes, it's a matchup I guess you would worry about a little bit, but since Dak has come back, he has looked great. And yes, he kind of benefited from, 2 out of 3 good matchups, but he still had a great game against the Packers as well. So yeah, Dak at 6.2 is going to be a player that I think I'm going out of my way to play once again this week. Not a lock and load like it was last week or even the previous weeks, but a very strong price point play. Then the question is, can Mac Jones do anything worthwhile? I don't know. I think I'm going to be fading Mac Jones on this slate. And then from there, what to expect from Saquon Barkley and Dalvin Cook? Personally, I don't think I'm going to be playing them, okay? And that's the biggest question mark on the slate. It's like, do you have to pay up for those 2 studs? I'm going to say no. I'm going to pay up for the receiver studs, and you guys will see that here in a second. So I do think it does make a lot of sense to start out your build with Tony Pollard. We saw Tony Pollard come back. I shouldn't say come back. We saw Zeke come back, and Tony Pollard was still the lead running back, played in 60% of the snaps. Now, he could have had a bigger night, okay, but also I guess he kind of got lucky getting 2 passing touchdowns, but Zeke came in and took 2 goal line carries away, but also that's partially due to Tony Pollard not being able to score on the goal line, so you can't really depend on the goal line touches, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but you can depend on the efficiency, you can depend on the targets as well. He has been a very productive running back, and I think against the Giants this week, he's still going to be a productive running back, especially given this price point. That's going to be a price point I think you want to chase, especially given the fact that the 2 other top running backs are not elite. They're not I shouldn't say not elite. They're not in an elite spot. Okay, Tony Pollard is in at least a decent spot. We already saw him in week 3 have a good game against the New York Football Giants as well. So yes, Tony Pollard we're going to be playing. And then from there, Stevenson. So Stevenson still played a decent amount of snaps, okay? You were worried about that, and you were worried about the matchup with the Jets. Had 15 carries, had 6 targets. We will take 21 opportunities any day of the week, okay, while playing 70% of the snaps. So yes, Damian Harris went out and had a good game. That was the worry, is that Damian Harris is back, he's healthy, and Damian Harris, I have always said this, I think Damian Harris is a better runner of the football than Stevenson. Stevenson just does everything else better than Harris, and the margin between the difference is not that great in running the football. Harris is more of a slasher. Stevenson is going to give you some kind of wild plays that Harris just doesn't have. That's my long way of saying that Stevenson, although, on paper had a bad game, it was a tough matchup, and he was still able to muster 14.2 DK points. You will certainly take that. Now he gets a matchup with the Minnesota Vikings, a matchup that you do want to chase, a matchup in which Tony Pollard just went off against. Okay, so yes, Rhamondre Stevenson at 6.4 is going to be a player I'm going out of my way to play. And then from there, one more running back as well. I'm going to be going with Devin Singletary, guys, once again for the third straight week. Now, yes, Minnesota was the easier matchup, scored 2 touchdowns in that game. And the thought process with that week was that, Josh Allen had that shoulder injury, okay? And I was expecting Devin Singletary to still maintain the snap counts that he's been getting, which we've seen continue to happen, which is about 70 to 75% of the snaps, while getting around 15 total opportunities. And if he gets goal line work, he's going to be an RB1, okay, or right around that range. And we've seen that happen in the last 2 weeks. Got 2 rushing touchdowns 2 weeks ago against Minnesota, and then 1 rushing touchdown last week against Cleveland, and looked good running the football. Obviously, Detroit's defense is pretty poor, so you expect Devin Singletary to once again have a good game. And the Buffalo Bills offense is great, so the chances of him being able to get a couple of goal line carries is going to be great. Okay, he just needs to convert on those. So, and I do think he will be able to do that again. So yes, Devin Singletary, firmly looking at him as a play. So yeah, we got 3 very solid running back plays. Okay, all 3 plays that should be able to get 10 DK points for you. And then really the question is, do you pay it for Justin Jefferson? I don't know. I want to. I expect the Vikings to bounce back. That game against Dallas was just like the perfect letdown spot. And now this is kind of the perfect bounce back spot. The worry is that this is going to be his toughest matchup of the season thus far, going against the Patriots. I kind of worry about that. Okay, so I might try to fade him in favor of Diggs. Obviously, Diggs had a bad game last week as well, but 5 targets, was still able to score a touchdown, and was still able to have that consistent high floor that he's had going against Detroit. That is a matchup that you do want to be chasing. And then, honestly, guys, it's tough. It gets really tough because we have a ton of great receiver plays. If we're playing Dak Prescott, obviously we want to play CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb looked great. Didn't need to do much. That was the worry. Okay, 5 targets, was able to convert that to 9.5 DK points. The big game was there for him. I think if that game stays close, it didn't, so you didn't need him to do much. 7.1, I'm fine paying up for him, especially if I'm trying to stack that. You can play him. And then St. Brown as well. Been a highly consistent fantasy producer, especially since TJ Hockenson has not been there. We've seen him get 10, 9, 11, and 8 targets on the field a ton. Okay, so I always like to target players that are on the field a lot and getting a lot of opportunities. Well, obviously that is St. Brown. Cheap price point play as well for a guy that could easily go for 15 DK points and wouldn't shock anyone. The problem with that is I think I'd rather play Jacoby Myers, who Jacoby Myers gets a great matchup this week as well. You were worried about him against the Jets. 6 targets, was still able to get 9.2 DK points. I think a bounce back spot certainly here for him. Okay, I think he's going to get right around 7 targets and should be a safe 10 DK point play with the upside to give you 15 DK points. He's a player that I'm going out of my way to play, given the price point, given the matchup, and given the projected targets. And then Darius Lane's weird. He keeps finding ways to kind of be relevant. He had that big play against Houston, and that was his only big play, really. Has been getting a decent amount of targets, but every single week there's some sort of weird injury that vaults him into relevancy. And that happened again this week, okay? He's going to step into that number 1 receiver role, which is not anything great for the Giants as they are run first team, but they'll probably struggle to run the football this week, so they're going to have to pass it, okay? So he got 10 targets last week, saw 80% of the snaps, and he is going to be the receiver number 1. So you can think about him as a play. I'd rather play Myers, but it wouldn't be shocking to see Slane have a good game. I think Michael Gallup could be in for a fine spot. I think Adam Thielen is at a cheap price point for, just because he kind of has to be. One interesting thing that we saw is that DJ Chark only played in 14% of the snaps, while Khalif Raymond still played in about 87% of the snaps as well. So he is someone that could be a strong price point play as well. If you're trying to get a piece of this game at a cheap price point, you can look at Khalif Raymond, who, hasn't been as productive as he was earlier on, but he still did get 7 targets last week, could get you right around 10 DK points. And then for what's worth, Nelson Agholor did play over 50% of the snaps last week. If that's a sign of things to come, could be a cheap value play for you. Not anyone you're going crazy with. And then Isaiah Hodgins, with the injury news, he could be someone that still steps into a decent role. Last week was able to score 4.9 DK points while playing, about, let's say, 58% of the snaps, or 59% of the snaps, and then 2 weeks ago scored 6.1 DK points while playing 62% of snaps. So could be if you need to punt, if you need to find a value play where you're trying to jam in studs or something, he is someone that has played, around 60% of the snaps since he's joined the Giants, which is kind of crazy. Get him at minimum price, you could get 5 DK points at the minimum price, which not terrible, and especially if you're trying to do a game stack. I don't hate that. So I'm going to leave this spot open, and then we're going to come back to it, see which receiver I end up on. From there, tight end wise, it's pretty simple. If you can afford to pay up for TJ Hockenson, you can. Obviously, last week's game was a blowout, partially due to him. He dropped a touchdown. dropped another pass that would have been a first down, kind of in a crucial point of the game. And then the Vikings just got blown out since then. But playing a lot of snaps, would have played in about 90% of the snaps if the game was in a blowout. Getting a lot of targets as well, 9, 10, and 9 targets thus far. On the field a lot. If you can afford to pay up for TJ Hockenson, I would say do that. It's basically like playing Darius Lane or Jacoby Myers at the same price point. So yes, I do like him a lot as a play. Dalton Schultz, I'm fine with. Dawson Knox, someone in the comment section kind of didn't like that I was talking up Dawson Knox last week. And, well, he had a good game. 14 DK points. And that's kind of really what you like about a tight end play at a cheap price point. You're just hoping for a solid floor, which he's been, and then possibility to give you, 14 or so DK points. I would say that's within the realm of possibilities again this week going against Detroit. So Dawson Knox is another player that I'd be fine with. But it's going to be tough not to play maybe Hunter Henry. I know the production hasn't been there the last few weeks, but he did play over 80% of the snaps, so we do like that. But the player I think I'll end up on the most is going to be Daniel Bellinger, who I expect to be back this week. If he's not back, then we're just going back to the value of Lawrence Cager, guys. He was 0.5% owned last week. I was kind of shocked at that. Okay. Now, yes, he didn't do much, only had 3 targets and was only able to score 4 DK points. Okay. But he still saw 70% of the snaps. He saw an increase of 6% of the snaps last week. So if Bellinger is out once again, maybe gets to 75% of the snaps, maybe gets a couple more targets. I typically like to punt at tight end for a player that's going to, one, be on the field a ton and possibly give you 5 or so DK points. That would be him. Okay, but once again, I want to play Daniel Bellinger. If he's active, I'm playing him. For now, I'm just going to put the Lions in there. Obviously, if you can fit the Patriots or, really whatever defense you feel comfortable with. The Cowboys, yes, I'm fine with that. But for now, I'm going Lions, and then you have a lot of salary left over to pay it for whoever you really want. You could go St. Brown, you could go CeeDee, and that's kind of the slate. It's that, I want to get like Dak, I want to get Pollard, I want to get Stevenson, I want to get Singletary, I want to get Diggs and Myers, and then we're just kind of filling in the lineup process from there, figuring out which path works the best. But that's all I have for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. That helps me be able to put out more content for you guys. Let's have a good Thanksgiving slate. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.